What is going on, Lucid fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So Lucid had a phenomenal Q2 earnings. I want to go over some of the highlights that stood out to me, as well go over some of the data points that's floating around today. So I'm going to go over all that. Make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with that, let's get right to it. So when it comes down to Lucid, I've been covering them for quite some time, ever since I think Q4 2021. And I can honestly tell you that this last earnings, so the Q2, which was yesterday, was a very nice breath of fresh air. And even though they did miss on their earnings per share and revenue, they did give a very good explanation and also a bright outlook for the rest of the year. So in reality, I think this is why it did go up, and the market clearly agrees with that. So it did close 12.17% in the green. As well, a lot of big money was buying. So these are all the transactions that did occur on the secondary market. These are all the ones that did occur on the dark pool. So dark pool was quite active today, and dark pool is very much linked to shorting. So I'll give you guys a quick overview of that and some various data before I go over the Q2 highlights. So today shorts did increase 2.55 million shares, 22% of the free float is being shorted, and 182.05 million shares overall are being shorted. So the fact that they are increasing slightly means that they are hesitant about this rally today. So once again, just be aware that as far as options, $5.63 million in calls being purchased today versus 2.99 million in puts. So clearly people are anticipating that Lucid is going to continue to trend up. And as well, based on just the calls, so this is a grid showing all the expiry dates, strike prices, it is anticipated by this Friday to close roughly around $8. Of course, options activity is just merely a sentiment. It does not move the stock price. As well, it is to note that I am not a financial advisor, so you guys always do your own due diligence. So when it comes down to their actual earnings, some of the highlights, clearly as what they even brought up, 150.9 million in revenue, which was a little bit lower than I think it was the forecast of 184, if I remember correctly. But one thing that they did, which was absolutely phenomenal, was this. So when they actually did go over their production and delivery numbers, so I think leading into the Q2 earnings, a lot of people were kind of worried, right? Because especially Peter sometimes rants and could go off topic or just generally not answer the question. So a lot of people were worried about this 1,404 vehicles being delivered in Q2 and that being substantially lower. So I think people were kind of concerned that there was demand issues. But what Peter and Sherry did was they outright just answered that and just hit it out of the park. So as what they did say was that there was a huge immense amount of deliveries being done internationally, just they never actually made it to the customer, so they didn't necessarily get that check mark. So based on that explanation, that calmed everyone's nerves. So again, that's a very, very good sign as well. They did sign the whole Saudi agreement. So of course that's going to be for 50,000 vehicles up to 100,000. And they did say that that is going to start in Q3. And that is where a lot of their actual inventory, so on their balance sheet, it does show almost $1 billion in inventory. And they did say that majority of that is going to be going to Saudi Arabia. So literally that couldn't have been said better by Peter and Sherry. So Peter and Sherry have done a phenomenal job, but like I mentioned in the past, sometimes they go off topic, sometimes they don't answer questions, but this earnings was absolutely phenomenal. And as far as this, so they do have quite a lot of liquidity. So they say they have sufficient amount up until I guess 2025. They also did talk on the whole Aston Martin deal and why that is a very big thing as a result of the Sapphire, and conveniently that is actually the news that does come out today. So Lucid announced its final production specs for the Lucid Air Sapphire. So the Sapphire was a hot topic in the Q2 earnings, of course, with it being the Halo car, and one of the bigger reasons why Aston Martin actually did choose Lucid as for their licensing and so forth and their technology was because of the Sapphire. Sapphire is also going to be having a launch event, which is, I think it is on October if I remember correctly. So production, everything for the Sapphire is on track. And as well, like I said, with them having a launch event for the Sapphire, they're also going to be having a launch event for the Gravity, which is going to be in November. So their marketing behind the scenes for Lucid is definitely getting a lot of steroids injected to it and just pumping it up like crazy. And that is exactly what a lot of investors do want to see. And as well, I think the only studio that they did disclose that they're opening is in Dusseldorf, if I'm saying that correctly. My apologies if not. not, but that is going to be, I think, slated for late September. So they're definitely still on a expansionary stage to take over Europe eventually, and I love that because I love how they are trying to target where there is an immense amount of demand. But once again, they did talk on how they did finalize the purchase agreement with the government of Saudi Arabia, and they also did talk on, I guess, generally just the infrastructure of their business. So they did say that there was 74 body shops in total by the end of Q2, and the last time I think they've given a number as far as that for body shops was in the Q4, might have been in Q3, where they only said that they had 30. So they have definitely developed quite a lot. So they are anticipating a huge amount of vehicles on the road, and obviously in turn you need a lot of body shops. So once again, I think that is definitely a very, very good thing. And in addition to that though, one thing I just wanted to bring up as far as marketing, they started to do a customer referral. So I think that's also going to be a very big thing. So once again, I can easily read off all these things, but I think no matter what I mentioned to you was more of the important highlights than anything. So they have sufficient amount of cash. They are still on track for every project. And as far as these questions, one thing that they, I guess, maybe not necessarily on track with potentially was this. So the midsize SUV, they did ask when, I guess, the status of that. So they did answer that it's going to be mid to late decade. So maybe 2026, 2027 potentially. This is actually the only thing that I was disappointed in, because there's been a lot of articles saying that by 2030 there's going to be projected around, I think it was $24 billion in revenue for the ESS. So in here on their answer, they did say that it's not a strategic focus for us right now, which again, I feel that wasn't necessarily the best answer, but at least they're being honest for once. And I think that definitely is respected, right? So Sherry could have easily just done some vague statement just saying, well, it's a possibility, we're going to keep it in wraps or whatever it is. But the fact that they just said no, that we're going to revisit it in the future, definitely I think I value and I respect that, actually, that answer. They were actually asked about Apple as well, and they obviously denied it as usual, but they did say once again that they are open to possibilities and partnerships in the future. And then just about the licensing, so I think in reality there is a lot of big things that are going to be coming Lucid's way, and I think from here on out it should in theory get better and better. But once again, let me know your thoughts on all of that in the comments below. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. Let me know what stood out to you for their Q2 earnings other than what I mentioned. Was there anything that I missed that was a very big deal? Because there was a lot of things coming. I know the analyst questions, there was a lot of good questions that was brought up by them as well, on which two of them actually did give new updates for estimates. So it looks like 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 with Citi, who only has a 42% success rating, did give a 750 rating, hold rating, and it looks like RF Lafferty did give a buy rating, $10 price target, and Jamie does have a 30% rating based on that. So I think in general, that's a pretty good thing in my own opinion. Once again, not a financial advisor. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And one final thing, take advantage of free promos, and that is with Moomoo. Link in the description below and also the comments. Sign up for a free account, but if you throw $100 at it, they give you 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000, and they also give you a $50 cash reward. So it's a win-win. Link in the description below and also the comments. With that said, I appreciate you guys watching. Let's all make a lot of money on Lucid.